Hi, everyone. Andris here at the Baking Steel Studio, live from Grand Rapids, Michigan. Tonight, we are doing a pizza hangout. And as a bonus, for anyone who's here in class, at the end of class, around the end, I'm going to select one person randomly, and they're going to win a baking steel. So it's going to be really fun. If you're watching us on YouTube, be sure to subscribe and tell your friends. We love doing these classes with you guys, and tonight is no different. And we have Audrey from Florida. Bucks up, everybody. And I'm gonna get to everyone's questions. So if I'm in the middle of something, just drop it in the message box there in the chat, and I'll be sure to get to them. If I forget it, just throw it in again, and I'll read it. Kind of reading in order if I can. But tonight, pizza hangout. I've made dough, and I'm trying a new dough recipe. It's not official to publish yet, but it's a tweak on one that we've kind of used. It's a little bit, it's a New York style pizza. And that just means it's got a little less water. It's gonna be a little less puffy than our typical traditional baking steel pizzas, which we love. This is more traditional style on our steel. So the bake time is gonna be a little bit longer. So I've made the dough actually yesterday. And I made a 24-hour dough. I combined bread flour and all-purpose flour for no real reason other than just to try something different. I've made this recipe a few different times. I haven't decided on the final outcome yet, but it's never a bad idea to combine flours just to test. A 24-hour ferment at room temperature, meaning I made it yesterday. I came in tonight or today probably around 2:30. I made my dough balls. So these balls have been resting here for like 2 or 3 hours. See, I got one I just balled up, bring this home tonight, but these other ones have been proofing. These are the same size, by the way, so you can see the difference. This has been proofing for like a half an hour. These are proofing for like 3 hours. So look at the difference in the size. It's starting to expand, right? The gases are trying to escape out of the dough, and it's creating this beautiful ball of dough, which is amazing. So we'll get to making pizza with it in just a few minutes. But that's the dough. Proofing. So I've got the dough there. I have my steels in my oven, and we'll take a look inside the oven in a little bit. I've got 2 baking steels only because I'm a steel guy. I have steels everywhere. I like 2 steels in my oven. 1 steel is fine. For placement, if I have 1 steel, it's gonna be close to the top rack, about 7 inches from the broiler. And I'm just gonna do a, 1 steel method is awesome. And that's what I typically do in these classes. I use 2 steels when I'm doing multiple pizzas. If I have like a bunch of people here, I'll make pizzas for everyone. I'll use 2 steels because 2 steels is more steel estate inside your oven. Makes sense, huh? Like that one, steel estate. So preheating for at least 1 hour before launch. So my oven was fired up around 4:30 today. Dough's been proofing for like 3 hours, which is ideal for me. Once I ball up the dough, I let it rest for 3 hours. You can see it starting to expand. So that's ready. Let's talk about the mise en place. So I'm gonna be making a New York stylish pizza. Tomatoes, I'm gonna make the sauce. Let's make the sauce. This is Bianco di Napoli tomatoes, one of my favorites. These are crushed, meaning I don't have to do anything to it. I open up the can and I add sea salt. So let's do the sauce first. Very intricate how we do this, right? A can opener. And I open this up. You can buy these in whole peeled. You can buy them already crushed. I guess I go both ways. I sometimes will buy them and crush them myself. I just, the theory behind it, crushed tomatoes versus whole peeled tomatoes, is a theory that when they're picking these tomatoes, the finest ones will go in the can as whole. The ones that might get dropped or bruised a bit, they might decide to crush those. So they're still going to be the same, like off the same vines. They can have the same flavors, but it might not be as pretty. So they crush them for us. And they store them with a little bit of salt. But we just add, I like to add a little bit of organic, not organic. This is real Redmond unrefined mineral salt. We do about 10 grams, which is about a good like silver dollar. I put that in my tomatoes. I take my spoon, I just mix it. Guys, that's my tomato sauce. It's that easy. These tomatoes taste phenomenal by themselves. We don't need to cook it. We don't need to reduce it. We just like them out of the can. So that's my sauce. Now, I can get fancy and add some shaved garlic inside or some oregano or some hot pepper chili flakes if you'd like. But that would be a variant of that. This is my main base sauce, just crushed tomatoes and sea salt. Just like my cooking, I like sea salt, pepper, and the main ingredients. Tomatoes done. Cheese. So we have the dough, we have the sauce, the cheese. This is gonna be, lately, I've been going to Trader Joe's and they have some incredible low moisture mozzarella. It's really gets a nice taste. It melts really well. And I get the whole milk, you can see. And I also get the skim milk. The skim milk's gonna brown a little bit faster. However, we always like, oh, my knife, let me see. We like to, here it is. We like to shred our own cheese. Because if you've been following us for a while, if we don't shred our own cheese and we buy it pre-shredded, well, each of those shreds is coated with like a little bit of a starch. You know how you buy the pre-packaged cheeses and they're kind of all pre-shredded already? They don't stick together. Well, they don't stick together because they coat each one of those strands with the starch. And that strand doesn't taste great. It tends to brown a little bit prematurely. So we always shred our own cheese. And we look for a nice low moisture mozzarella. And I'm using a combination here of whole milk and skim. I prefer the whole milk because it won't brown as easy. Does that make sense? However, for this today, I'm gonna use a combination, right? Of whole milk and I got a lot of cheese here. Make sure you get all the stickers off too. I almost left a sticker on there. Oops, that would stink. So I have different shredders here, guys. This is my Wonder Shredder, which I love, but this is a traditional shredder. And for this pizza tonight, I'm going tradition. Okay, we're gonna just use like a New York, like some regular grated cheese. So I grated my cheese. I could grate this right on the pizza. But I want to get everything ready before I stretch my dough, right? So that's my whole milk, and this is my skim, and I mixed them 2 equal parts. Get my cheese ready. That's probably plenty of cheese for what I'm doing here. See my cheese. I've got my sauce. I've got my cheese ready to rock and roll. Now, let's change the view so you guys can get into the pizza. Here's my doughs. I'll show these to you again. This is a ball I just made like half an hour ago. These are both the same size, each about 275 grams. But these tended to, you can see this has been proofing for 3 hours and it's expanding, right? This is why we ball up the dough and close the seam. So let's remove one. I like these little spatulas here. Take it out of the container. Down. Allow out my workspace, right? Throw my dough right into the flour. Both sides, coat both sides with the flour. And because this dough has been proofing, it's super soft and supple. Look at that, it's just like pressing it out. It feels like a cloud, right? And I'm using this is a little different recipe. It's a little bit New York style. So it's gonna puff up, but it's not gonna be as puffy as our traditional 72-hour dough because I folded this dough in preparation a few times. And I'll talk more about that when we release the recipe. And if you have any questions on that, please ask away. So now once it gets to be about a certain length, 7 inches in diameter, pick it up and just kind of let gravity do its thing here. I'm gonna kind of like stretch and turn like a steering wheel. And you can see it's starting to take shape, right? Isn't that beautiful? And I'm leaving a little crust. If you noticed, I'm kind of not pressing the edges out. I'm leaving that crust so it puffs up nicely. Again, that's just my preference. I keep stretching, stretching. For New York style, I'm not gonna wanna have the bubbles. You can see like these bubbles forming here. I'm gonna pop the bubbles. Right? I don't want the big bubbles on the New York style. I'm gonna kind of just keep it very traditional here. I'm gonna make this to about a 12-inch pizza. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful looking, right? It's getting there. And I just keep stretching slowly and methodically. That's probably about the size where I want it now. Okay, so I'm gonna grab a pizza peel and grab my flour. I put semolina down and regular flour. You kind of dust that around. Place my pizza on top, right? Get my workspace here. And there is my dough. Beautiful, right? I would give it all a nice stretch here on the perimeter. What do you think? Look nice, right? Before I do cheese, before I do sauce, I want to give it a shake and a jiggle, make sure it's not sticking to my peel. If it is, this is the time where I want to pick up that peel and dust underneath here, right? Add a little bit more lubricant, if you will. That's my. Now let's get to work and sauce it up, okay? So I'm gonna take a little bit of tomato sauce in the center, 2 spoonfuls, just push it around. Maybe a little bit more, be a little aggressive here. I bring my sauce close to the edge, but not over the edge, right? Just like life. Push it, not too far. Maybe a little bit more. I'm gonna go a little heavy in my sauce. Now I'm gonna take some, just stick it underneath the cheese a little bit here, right? A little oregano. My kids love it. And now the cheeses, and I'm doing a combination of cheese, the low moisture and the high moisture, right? Boom. I'm sorry, both low moistures. One's skim, one's whole. Very traditional looking, right? Very traditional. Not like all of our pizzas. We're very untraditional at baking steel, but we're going to be traditional tonight, somewhat, right? Not pretty? All right, let me go back here for a second. So I got the pizza ready, right? Looks gorgeous, smells amazing. Oven is preheating at 450. I'm sorry, actually, I'm gonna go higher. No, I'm not using my broiler tonight. I'm not using the broiler tonight, so I'm gonna do a straight bake on my top steel. So I'm gonna launch this in, and I make sure before I go in my oven that this dough is still loose. Because if it's not loose now and I go into my oven, I'm in big trouble. So I'll have a calzone, which I don't want. I want pizza, so I'll make sure this is really loose. And this is a really important step. If you make sure that the peel is gonna be ready, the dough is sliding like a hockey puck, it's sliding. Now my back of my peel is gonna go to the back of my steel, and I just kind of slide it off. Not too steep, be calm, take a deep breath. Think Zen, right? And we're gonna just peel this off. So I've got my oven on. I'm gonna switch the angle, but carry my, you can see, right? Boom. The back of my peel goes to the back of the steel. I just kind of shuffle it off. Real easy, right? Simple. Put my timer on for like 5 minutes. 7 minutes, I will open the oven up and maybe rotate. I'm sorry, after 5 minutes, I might open the oven up and rotate it a half a turn and bake it for maybe 1 or 2 more minutes, and we'll be done. So it'll be like no broiler, 5 or 7 minute bake on the steel. It's gonna be phenomenal. New crust, New York style, it's gonna be amazing. Let's get to some questions. Let's see here. Okay, midnight pizza, why not? I love it. Hey, Stefan. Hey, Jordan is asking, I use salt in all my sourdough and pizza dough. Just about an hour south of me is where it is buried. Oh, that's cool. What kind of salt is that? Is it like a local salt? That sounds amazing. Yeah, Brenda, this sauce is like outstanding. Really what it comes down to is, go to the market, grab, like, just look at the tomatoes. Like, I recommend the Bianco de Napolis. I've also been using these Isola lately. These are Italian whole plum San Marzano tomatoes. I crush these by hand and use them. Now, lately, these have been winning in a taste test over these. I have friends come over, my son and their friends, and I make 2 pizzas, one with these tomatoes, one with these, blindly, and this has been winning lately. That was probably last time I did that about 6 months ago. Now, tomatoes change. They come off the vines at different times of year. They're different dates when they're pulled. So you always want to be testing and tasting and checking them out, especially if you're having guests over. Always exploring. Wegmans makes a good low moisture whole milk and also part skim milk. I combine them 50-50. Oh, great. Pro Paul goes to Wegmans, and I'm guessing they have, they probably, I don't know which farm they might use, but they must have a great source. And that's probably what Trader Joe's has, just a dynamite flavor cheese. And melting, melting is really important. Some cheeses will brown super fast, even if you shred it yourself, some not. So really just gotta keep testing, looking online. Like, I'm using Trader Joe's. Most people have a Trader Joe's near them. These aren't expensive, and they last a long time too. So yeah, try those out, explore. Thank you, Stefan. Looks amazing. I always shred my own cheese. I love it, Brenda. That's the way to do it, right? And it's also a good story when you're having pizza night with your friends. You can tell them, almost like you're a culinary genius. Always shred your own cheese. It looks good. Okay, so Paul's asking, do you find the semolina flour burns on the hot steel? Great question. So they buy these like glass, these are always in my cabinet up here. One's flour, bread flour, one is semolina flour. I like to use a combination. Now, the first goal is to get the dough off your peel into the hot oven. Early on in the process, when you're just starting out, you're going to want to use more flour than you need because you don't want it getting stuck. So be generous with the flour and the semolina flour. As we get better and more experienced, you do not want to have so much flour underneath your peel. So less is more. I like to take a cloth after each pizza and I Zamboni my steel off. I don't want to have a lot of flour and semolina flour on my steel. I want to have that steel as clean as possible because it will, like Paul is saying, it could burn. I find that less is more, but let's go while I got you, let's take a look inside the oven here. Just see right there, boom. Look at the color, right? Looking nice. Underneath, I'm gonna rotate a little bit. So it's been about 4 minutes. It's got a little char, it's okay. It's cooking on the bottom, it's getting there. I think maybe 2 or 3 more minutes is all it's gonna take, right? We'll have a nice 6 or 7 minute bake. Always use a timer, right? Because if you don't, you could burn it, especially with the broiler on. I'm not using a broiler tonight, so it's a little slower bake, which I like, the New York style. This will be about a 6.5 to 7 minute bake when it's all done. So semolina flour, I find, doesn't burn as easy as cornmeal, which is why I recommend semolina flour. But less is more on your peel. You want to see, not a lot on here. And you'll see like the professional pizzaiolers are using metal peels, which are trickier to use. However, they really like them because there's no flour being caked on, if you will. So they're real experienced. They've got really good skills, and they'll be perforated too. So holes, so flour kind of falls off. Let's see what else we got. So Andrea, cheese and sauce on your pizza preference, or do you like meat as well? If so, what kind of meats do you recommend, and should you pre-cook it? Great question. I love cheese pizza. I mean, I make cheese pizza. I can make it every single day. Don't get tired of it. I will add meat. Yes, great idea. Like hamburger, like ground sauce, like sausage is great out of the casing. And I do not pre-cook it. I will cook it on the pizza, especially this New York style. It's like a 6 or 7 minute bake. Just break it off into little pieces, and it's going to cook just fine inside on that pizza in that hot oven at 500 degrees. Phenomenal, right? Great. I hope that answers that. And Alan is asking, we have a Bosch wall oven. Here are the settings. on the upper wall, true convection, convection broil, convection roast, convection bake. Our pizza setting, wow. I like convection bake. I know Alexander Stafford, a friend of ours, is amazing. She uses convection roast, which is a really good idea too. Play around with it. There's really no right or wrong answer. I find for my oven, convection bake, I can get, like 4-minute bakes. I use the broiler for the first 2 minutes typically, and then I'll turn the broiler off and just go back to convection bake for 2 minutes. A 4-minute cycle in this oven. It's a wall oven, similar to your Bosch. This is a Monogram. It's a great oven. Bosch's are great ovens. They hold that heat really well. I'd play around. I'd probably start with convection bake. The broilers, again, broiler no more than 1 or 2 minutes. Otherwise, you're gonna be really scorching. Let's go back in the oven here. Oh, look at this, guys. Probably a little, almost too dark, right? Not really. It's gonna be awesome. Let's look underneath. Boom. Awesome. Right. So now, got my peel. Go back to here. Close my oven up. You can see I got a little semolina flour on my steel, and I'll really just brush that off for my next pie. This is the baking steel plus on top. I've got the baking steel original on the bottom. You can see I got 2 in there. Takes up a lot of real estate, which I love. Let's see. Let's go take a look now at this pizza. You guys can see it. Isn't it gorgeous? Right? You see that? Where is it? Oh. So that. All right. It's part of my technology, guys. Let me do this first. 1 second here. There we go. You can see probably a little dark, right? I almost got a little heavy on the dark, but look underneath. Boom. Beautiful, right? That gorgeous. Here you can see crispy on the bottom. Gorgeous pie. It's gonna taste amazing. Or someone was in Grand Rapids, they could join me. I love the way the cheese melted. You can see it's got a little brown, like that New York style. Probably a little puffy on the edges there, but it's gonna taste incredible. They're crispy up beautifully. Can't wait. Any more? Let's get to some more questions, you guys. Let's see. So Paul, Alan, I hope I answered that for your wall oven. Redmond sea salt. That's, oh yeah, Jordan. Oh, this is there, you guys. That's incredible. Yeah, this is one of my favorite salts, the Redmond. Oh yeah, it's in Utah. Look at that. It's really good. It's got a nice flavor. I actually drink this in my water in the mornings. I put a little mineral salt like in my water. I just down like 12 ounces of water every morning. I use this salt, which I love this. It gives it a nice taste. Have you tried making a dough with a blend of Parisian or Kamat flour like it in bread, but was curious if it works? So John, great question. Adding different flours. I have not tried, I can't even say that, Corajan or Kamat flours, but I have tried spelt and I really like it. What I do typically when I'm introducing a new flour and I'm not like quite sure, if my recipe calls for 500 grams of flour, bread flour, which is what ours does in most instances, I will add maybe 50 grams of spelt in there, like 10% of spelt, and then 90% of the bread flour. And I'll introduce it that way. And if I like it, which to me, anything more than 20% of spelt, it becomes a little bit too dry. It's still good, but it's too dry. So maybe like 10 or 20% of that. I might try the same thing with a Kamat flour. Just sprinkle some in, measure it, document it, and then you can amp it up if you really liked it. And you might find 10% is like perfect. Same thing with whole wheat. I do the same thing. I just kind of introduce 10% in first, no more than 20 typically. Otherwise, it tends to, changes the whole dynamic of the water ratio and etc. Because some of the flours absorb water differently. All right. Have you tried making dough? Okay, sorry about that. I notice you are baking at 450, not 500. Oh, great, Leslie, great question. So typically I'm using the broiler and my habit is to preheat my oven at 450. Since I was doing like a New York style tonight, I could have just cooked it at 500. or 550 in this instance. Yeah, so if I'm using the boiler, I preheat at 450 and then use the boiler and then go back to 500. If I'm just doing a straight bake, I should have had that's a good observation, I should have had this oven at 500. High gluten flour versus bread flour versus high protein. Is there a difference? So Terry's asking, high gluten versus bread flour versus high protein. So gluten and protein are going to be the same thing. So typically flours will have the protein percentage of protein in the flour. The bread flour we use is a very high, like 13.5%, which is a very high gluten bread flour. That makes sense. So it will tell you on the bag. I typically like bread flours for my pizzas and breads. Yeah, it looks really good. It smells great too. Perfect. I love dark and crispy drizzle. Oh yeah, good idea. Kathleen saying there's a little oil on it. I'm not going to slice this up. I'm gonna bring it home tonight. And I can just kind of preheat it in the oven. I've got to steal it at home. I can kind of bake it in there for like just a couple of minutes to get nice and hot. It'd be great. What is your favorite brand of pepperoni? Also, have you ever used the net tried other YouTube dough recipe? Oh, okay. What's my favorite brand of pepperoni? Great question. There's a couple of companies I use. One's called like NZ on Instagram. They've sent me a bunch. It's really good. I'll try to link to that. But typically, if I'm going like shopping at like the local markets around here, Boar's Head Natural Casing is a really nice flour. Same rule, or Whole Foods has a nice pepperoni too. Just make sure you go there and have it sliced up at the deli, or you can buy the stick and slice it yourself. In like 1/8 of an inch slices are good. Have you ever cut it? Jordan's asked, do I ever cut it with scissors? I see people doing it and it seems to be a bit extra. I think it's for show. Scissors are cool. They have like food scissors, if you will. And yeah, they cut, it's really slow. I like the rocker or even a pizza slicer, one or the other, much faster. I think the scissors are for show. Know more about that dough turned out. Thank you, Stefan. It's great. You know, just real quick. So the difference of a New York style versus our traditional 72-hour dough. Here's what, let's call the ingredients. Ones that have a little less hydration. This one, meaning a little less water in the flour. But what I'm doing, the extra steps I'm doing after I knead the dough for a few minutes, I let it rest for 30 minutes and then I fold it. And folding it's like a shirt, just like there's no right or wrong. I'm kind of layering it, if you will, on top of each other and letting it rest for 30 minutes, like baguettes. And then I'll do it again and I'll fold it. And the reason is we don't want this pizza to go explode on us like our puffy pizza, which I love. It's soft and tender. New York style. In fact, I probably could have folded this a little bit more. It's got a little bit too much bubbles here still, but it's gonna be awesome. It's gonna be awesome. It's great. But anyway, so that's one major difference is I'm folding the dough along the way on a New York style versus just kneading it and letting it rest. That's one thing that's different. It's gonna be good. You're gonna love it. Do you have a par bake with some ice? Jordan, yes. So the first pizza that comes to mind is like a cacio e pepe, and that is baking your dough like naked, meaning nothing, no sauce, no cheese. And so, because we're creating like a landing area where this cheese is, where it's just going to be dough, creamy dough. And so what we do is we place a couple of ice cubes. I learned that trick for some Italian chef somewhere. We place some ice cubes in the center, and then we launch. And what happens is the ice will melt and making the center of the pizza creamy, but also it's not going to darken too much. It's not going to get charred because the ice and the coolness of the water, right? And we dump the water off, but it gives the dough a really nice landing area for cacio e pepe, which is basically olive oil and cracked pepper. And it just makes it beautiful. You're doing like a naked, Alexander Stafford does a naked Alexander, they call it a naked pesto. So same thing, create a really nice landing area for that pesto to go on, creamy. It looks beautiful. So I hope that answers that question, Jordan. Anybody else have any questions we can get to? Nothing. All right, good. Hey, so listen, we've got one steal to give away tonight, and someone here, I'm gonna randomly pick the person right now. And we'll be doing this. I'm gonna try to do these every time I do a class. So please bear with us if you will. And Kathleen Chase, you're still here. You're getting a steal. Give me a thumbs up if you get this, Kathleen. I'll make sure I pick the person that's here. Are you still with us, Kathleen? I can't see her yet. Going once. I hope she didn't leave. That would be a bummer. Kathleen, are you still here? Can you go in the chat room? Uh-oh, she might be a lucky loser here. That stinks. I'm gonna have to pick somebody else. If Kathleen, any more questions, you guys, while we're at it here? Anybody have any questions? Oh, she's there. There she is. Awesome. Congratulations, Kathleen. You are the winner of the steal. So Kathleen, can you do me a favor? Can you email me Andris, A-N-D-R, I'm gonna type it right here. Andris at Baking Steel. And I'll make sure we'll connect and I'll hit your address and all of that. Amazing, guys. So cool. Pizza hangout. We're doing another one in a couple of weeks. We're trying to have a special guest. Pizza dough. Terry, I've not made pizza dough. Remind me what that one even is. Is that the thin, like a flatbread? I know I've heard it. I'm just drawing a blank. Pizza dough. I've not tried it. Yeah, great tips. You got it. Yeah, you guys are great. Thank you for being here. Amazing. I wish someone was here to join me for pizza. Anybody in Grand Rapids or Michigan? No? All right. Amazing, you guys. Thank you. Thank you for being here. We will see you guys in a couple of weeks. Any questions, email me, Andris at bakingsteel.com, and we will, Roman style. Yes. Great. Gotcha. Now you're ringing a bell. You guys are great. Thank you, guys. I appreciate you. Grateful. See you soon. Thanks.